Have you ever had one of those moments where your entire world shifts in a single heartbeat? I did, and honestly, it's a feeling I wouldn't wish on anyone. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday evening. I was sitting on the couch, unwinding after a long day, while my partner was cooking dinner in the kitchen. Her phone lit up on the coffee table, nothing unusual, but something about the way she glanced over at it, then quickly looked away, caught my attention. It wasn't fear exactly. It was more like guilt, a flicker, there and gone, but enough to make my stomach tighten. I told myself I was being paranoid. We trusted each other, right? There was no reason to doubt. But then, curiosity got the better of me. Without really thinking, I glanced at the screen, just one glance, and there it was. A message preview from a contact I didn't recognize. The words read, "I miss our talks. You always knew how to make me feel special." My heart sank. I felt cold all over. I tried to tell myself it was innocent, maybe a friend, maybe a joke, but deep down, something broke in that moment. The trust I had taken for granted suddenly felt fragile, like glass cracking under pressure. I sat there, phone untouched, mind racing. Should I ask? Should I wait? Was I overreacting? Nothing about that moment was loud or dramatic. It was quiet, and it hurt more because of that. And that was the moment everything changed for me. Looking back, I realized that trust isn't something that usually shatters all at once. It's more like tiny cracks that go unnoticed until suddenly, the whole thing falls apart. In the months before that night, there were little signs, moments that seemed harmless at the time. Times when she would laugh at a message and quickly tuck her phone away. Moments she became a little more protective of her screen, changing her passcode without mentioning it. I brushed it off. I trusted her. I believed in us. But trust can make you blind sometimes. There were small changes too. She started being more distant, less present, even when we were together. Conversations that used to flow so easily now felt forced, like she was somewhere else even when she was sitting right next to me. I thought maybe it was stress from work, or just one of those phases couples go through. I didn't want to be the insecure partner who questioned everything, so I stayed quiet. I convinced myself that love meant giving space, not asking too many questions. I told myself it was nothing. But deep down, I think I knew something wasn't right. It's painful to admit that to myself now. That I saw the red flags and chose to ignore them. Maybe because facing them felt scarier than pretending they didn't exist. By the time that text popped up on her phone, those little cracks had already been there, waiting. I just hadn't been ready to see them. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. It was a Saturday night, the kind of night where nothing big was supposed to happen. We were both curled up on the couch, half watching a movie, half scrolling through our phones. Her phone buzzed, lighting up with a message preview. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of the name, a name I didn't recognize, and then the words, "Can't wait to see you again." In that split second, my heart sank. It was like the room got quieter, heavier somehow. I didn't plan to look. I wasn't snooping. It just happened. And once I saw it, I couldn't pretend I hadn't. I froze, staring blankly at the TV while my mind raced. Was there some innocent explanation? Was it just a friend, a joke, something out of context? Every part of me wanted to believe that. Every part of me wanted to rewind, to erase what I saw. But that tiny voice inside, the one I had been ignoring for months, spoke up louder than ever. Something's wrong. I remember trying to keep my voice steady when I asked her, "Who's that?" She stiffened immediately, her whole body language changing. She hesitated, just for a second, but in that hesitation, I found my answer. It wasn't just a friend. It wasn't innocent. And in that moment, something inside me shifted forever. It's strange how a single moment can redraw the map of your entire life. One text, one glance, and suddenly the world you trusted isn't yours anymore. I wish I could tell you I stayed calm. I wish I could say we talked things through like two mature adults. But the truth is, when your heart shatters right in front of you, it's almost impossible to hold yourself together. I asked her again, more quietly this time, "Who is he?" She looked at me, and for a moment, I thought she might tell the truth. But then came the excuses, quick, clumsy words about it being nothing serious, just some harmless flirting, and how she didn't mean anything by it. But how could it mean nothing if it broke everything? I sat there listening, but it felt like I was somewhere else, like I was floating outside of my own body, watching my life unravel in slow motion. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even yelling. I just felt tired of second-guessing, tired of being the only one fighting for us. I asked her the questions I didn't want answers to. Why would you hide it? If it was innocent, why didn't you tell me? How long has this been going on? Her answers didn't matter as much as the fact that I had to ask it all. Because trust isn't something you question when it's real. She cried. She apologized. She promised it would never happen again. But in my heart, I already knew something had broken between us that couldn't be fixed with just words. I looked at her, this person I loved so much, and realized she wasn't the same person in my mind anymore. Or maybe I wasn't the same person either. The days after that confrontation felt like walking through a fog. I woke up each morning hoping it had just been a terrible dream, but reality always hit me the moment I opened my eyes. The silence between us was heavier than any argument could have been. She tried to act like things could go back to normal, offering me coffee in the mornings, sending little texts during the day, but every small gesture felt empty, forced. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just numb. Have you ever felt so hurt that even crying feels too exhausting? That was me. At night, when the world was quiet, I would replay everything in my head, the laughter we shared, the promises we made, and now, the doubt that had replaced all of it. I wondered, was I overreacting? Was it really just flirty words like she said? Could we rebuild what we had? Friends and family noticed something was wrong, but I didn't know how to talk about it without sounding bitter. I didn't want to be bitter. I wanted to be strong. But every memory we had together now felt like it had a crack running through it. I realized healing wasn't just about forgiving her. It was about deciding what I needed to be okay again. And for the first time in a long while, I had to put myself first. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about anger. It was about survival, my emotional survival. And in those long, lonely nights, I started to understand. Sometimes love isn't enough when trust has been broken. One evening, I sat alone in our living room, the same place where so many of our happy memories lived. And I realized something heartbreaking but necessary. I didn't recognize the life I was living anymore. I wasn't the person I used to be, the one who smiled easily, who felt safe coming home. I had become someone constantly second-guessing, constantly wondering if the people I loved would hurt me again. And that wasn't the life I wanted. That wasn't me. I remember sitting there, staring at the walls that once felt warm and full of laughter, and feeling this wave of quiet clarity wash over me. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was peaceful. I needed to leave. Not because I hated her, not because I wanted to punish her, but because staying would have meant betraying myself. And after everything, I had already been betrayed enough. The conversation was short. She cried. She begged. She promised it would never happen again. And maybe she meant it. Maybe she was truly sorry. But it didn't change the fact that I no longer felt safe in our relationship. And that mattered more than anything. I packed a small bag that night, just the essentials. I didn't know where I was going exactly, but I knew I couldn't stay where trust was broken. Walking out that door was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But looking back now, it was also the bravest. Looking back, walking away was not the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new one. A story where I chose self-respect over fear. Where I chose healing over staying broken. The first few weeks were harder than I ever imagined. Loneliness crept in at night like a heavy fog. Doubts whispered in my ear. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe you should have stayed. But then, every morning, there was this tiny growing peace inside me. It wasn't loud. It didn't erase the sadness overnight. But it was there, like the first light before sunrise. I began to reconnect with old friends. I threw myself into hobbies I had forgotten. I loved hiking, painting, even journaling. And through all those small steps, I found pieces of myself I thought I had lost forever. One thing I learned through it all: trust, once broken, is painfully hard to rebuild. And sometimes, choosing to forgive someone doesn't mean choosing to stay. Sometimes forgiveness is about releasing the pain, so you can move forward, even if the relationship can't. If you're listening right now and feeling the weight of broken trust, please know you are not alone. Your feelings are valid, and you have every right to protect your peace, even if it's the harder choice. Thank you for spending your time with me and hearing my story. If you've ever faced a moment where you had to choose between your heart and your peace, what would you have done in my place? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you found even a little bit of comfort here, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. It helps more than you know. Until next time, take care of your heart. You deserve that.